Hey, so this is my happy dance, y'all. You guys asked for this recipe for my mom's stuffing, so here it is. Let's go. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of celery. This is pretty much the whole bag. I don't rinse off my celery. I take a wet paper towel or I use a wet kitchen towel and I just wipe it down along the stalks of the celery. So here you want to make sure you're chopping this up really finely. Alright, so you're going to go ahead and you're going to throw this in the bowl. I may or may not use all of this. It just kind of depends on what the gravy is looking like when we get to that point. So right here, I decided to use just a half of large onion right here. So you want to make sure that you're chopping this up really nice and fine. If you have a chopper, which I do have some in my Amazon storefront, if you have a chopper, this is going to be the best gadget to use for something like this. But guys, my mom never used that, and I was just in my element of zoning in and thinking about my mama at this time. So I wanted to go ahead and do this recipe exactly the way she used to do it. Okay, so once you're done chopping this, I put them both in a separate bowl just because I wasn't sure of how much I was going to use of both. But you can actually leave this on the cutting board, you can put it in separate bowls, or you can put it all in the same bowl. Typically my mom used to mix them all in a bowl together, but I just did it separately here. So right here, I'm going to add in 2 sticks of butter. So this recipe and all the measurements, it just depends on how much you are making. I made a big, huge pan, and I'm going to show you guys that pan in just a second. Okay, so once your butter is all melted, you want to add in your celery and you want to add in your chopped onions. And then you're just going to mix this all around until it's really, really hot. And you're going to let these guys saute until the veggies are kind of soft. So this is what you want it to look like, and at this point you are ready to add in your chicken stock. Now let me tell you something, mommy never used chicken stock. Growing up when we were really younger, she used to use water, and then as time went on and she upgraded her recipe, she started to use chicken broth. Chicken broth in this recipe is totally fine, but I find that the chicken stock, of course, this has more flavor and more body, and you're going to get a better flavor. If you can find chicken stock, go ahead and use it. If not, I would recommend chicken broth, but I do not recommend using water in this recipe. So for the size pan that I used, I wound up using about 1.5 things of this chicken stock here. So in this Costco box you get 4 cups in one box, so I used about 6 cups of chicken stock in this recipe. But also I should say I did have some left over, and you guys can just use that for your gravy. So right here I'm going to start adding my seasonings. Some of these seasonings are the traditional seasonings that my mom used to use, but with me being me, you guys know I like to experiment and I like to, be non-traditional in some aspects. So in this recipe, some of the seasonings that I have here my mom did not use, but you can use some of these or you can use all of these. Of course, I recommend using all of these. Why? Because we love flavor over here. But if you only had a couple of them, it would still work, because the stovetop stuffing, that has a lot of the herbs that you need in that as well. So no worries here if you don't have these in your cabinet. And guys, this right here, this seasoning is very special to me. This actually was my mom's seasoning that I actually brought from her house when we had to clear it out when she passed away. So yeah. So here, poultry seasoning. I definitely would highly recommend that you guys use poultry seasoning. If you didn't have some of the other ones, the poultry seasoning, the sage, and the Italian seasoning, I would definitely say is a must. And mommy also always used the celery seeds in this particular recipe as well. So those are the ones that I would highly suggest if you just had to pick just a couple. Okay, so we're doing really good here. So right here, you want to make sure that you're mixing up all of those seasonings into what my mommy would call the gravy. So go ahead and mix that up really good. Okay, so I want to show you guys the size of the pan that I'm using. This is a aluminum foil pan that I got from Dollar Tree, and this is the big large one. So again, you need to use the amount of ingredients for the size pan that you are using. This right here will feed probably 10 people or more. So you can definitely make this recipe in smaller portions, and you just season to your taste. So that's the whole thing about a lot of recipes that I make. I can give you the foundation of the seasonings that you can use, or that I use, or what's recommended, but always do things by your taste. And one thing I'm going to say about this stuffing recipe, and for most all stuffing recipes, guys, there's so much sodium. If you're using the prepackaged stovetop stuffing that I'm using here, and then I'm also going to use the Pepperidge Farm cubes, you do not want to add any additional salt. Or if you have a lot of seasonings that you're using that already have salt in it, you want to be very careful with those. Do not add any additional salt, because this will be way too salty. Okay, so right here I'm just adding in, I use all 4 bags of the stovetop seasoning mix here. And then I also added a bag and a half. You're gonna see me add the extras in just a little bit. I'm gonna add this full bag, and then later on I'm gonna add in a little bit more, a little less than half from the second bag, and I'll tell you why when we get to that point. But yeah, guys, I used to be in the kitchen with my mom every single year growing up. As an elementary school kid, I remember being in the kitchen with her, helping her make Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners and Easter dinners every single year. So this definitely touches my heart to be able to honor her in this way. And today is actually my mom's birthday, guys, so give her a shout out. Today is her heavenly birthday, so give her a shout out in the comments if you've reached this far in the video, guys. Throw some purple hearts in the comments, or some white hearts in the comment section below. Purple was her favorite color. Alright, guys, I'm just gonna go ahead and mix up those crumbs and cubes really well right here. Okay, so let's go back to our hot pot. So you want this to get to a nice hot boil, and then once it starts to boil, I typically will knock it down a little bit, because guys, I let this cook. Once we get everything in, I let it cook for a good 30 minutes. So this has been cooking for about 10 minutes right about now. So now the next step that we're going to do with this gravy, as mom called it, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add in, this is a large jar of the Heinz homestyle turkey gravy. This is the value size. So again, depending on how much you make, you may use this large one, or you might want to use the small one, or sometimes, and I think in this recipe I use this one, and I use one of the smaller ones as well. So I am going to use 2 packets of the McCormick turkey gravy. So also, if you guys are having a hard time finding the turkey flavor, because sometimes they sell out during the holiday season, if you cannot find the turkey ones, you can also use chicken. So turkey or chicken would definitely work for this part as far as the gravy. Okay, so what I did here was I added those 2 packets of gravy into this jar. Yes, we are going to reuse this jar because this jar still has gravy in there, so that's flavor, right? And also you paid for it. So we're going to use everything that we pay for because food prices are way too expensive, right? So I also added about a cup of water to that, and then I shook that up, and now we're going to go ahead and you see me pouring that in the pot. Okay, so get yourself a whisk, a heat-proof whisk, or get yourself a nice spoon. You can continue to use the wooden spoon that I was using, and you want to mix this up really, really well. I prefer to use a whisk because you don't want this gravy to have lumps in it. And also I should say, you don't want this to be really thick. When I say gravy, you think of maybe a thick, nice gravy, but you want this to actually be kind of thin. Not super thin, but you'll see it right here. So right here, I'm going to taste it. You guys, you have to taste your foods as you cook because you want to make sure that it tastes good to you, because 9 times out of 10, in most cases, if it tastes good to you, it's going to taste good to those who you are serving it to. So as you can see, I tasted it and I felt like this needed some more seasonings. So I went in and I pretty much added all of the seasonings, which it's going to be listed below in the description bar. I added all of these seasonings that I added in the beginning to this recipe. I went back in and I added a little bit more, and that's the exact reason why you need to taste to make sure that your seasoning and your sauce and your foods taste good to you in this process. So guys, this is a very quick, easy, but delicious recipe. This is the way my mom made it for as long as I could remember growing up. Now, I know some of you guys make it from scratch, and you know that is totally fine. And maybe one day I will be able or have a desire to make it from scratch. But honestly, I've never made it from scratch just because this was the way my mom made it. We grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and we call this stuffing. You know, and I know that there's a difference. Really, the difference between stuffing and dressing is you stuff the turkey. That's why they call it stuffing. But my mom, she did used to put the stuffing inside the turkey years ago. Me, and then she stopped doing that. But for me, I don't do that because I just feel like there's a high chance of, you know, cross-contamination with those turkey juices. So, but do as you please. But yeah, I don't do that. But we still call it stuffing. So as you can see just now, I did taste it again. Again, guys, taste your food, of course, with a clean spoon because you don't want to spread any germs. But I tasted this gravy, and at this point, it was exactly how I wanted it. Okay, so now we're at the point in our stuffing recipe that you guys have been waiting for. You want to be very careful because this is very hot. So make sure you use a lot of caution here. Alright, so we're going to add the gravy into the breadcrumbs little by little, guys. Do not pour the whole thing into your pan here because you may or may not need all of this. So I do this just a little bit at a time. In between each pour, you're going to go ahead and you're going to mix it up. So as you can see here, this stuffing definitely does not have enough liquid in there. So I'm going to take the hot pot. Be careful, guys, because this pot is hot. Look at that steam. So you want to go ahead and pour some more in there. Again, mix up the stuffing together with the gravy. The goal here is to get this to a consistency where it's not too mushy, but then it's not too dry. So that's why you just want to take a little bit of the gravy in the stuffing a little bit at a time and mix that up and make sure you are incorporating all of those cubes in, because you want to show all of those little cubes of stuffing. You want to show all of them some love. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see the consistency. So this is about my 3rd time going in. The pot that I made the gravy in, this is about a 7-quart pot, so you guys can know how much how much this actually made. And it's definitely okay if you make more gravy than stuffing than you need, because I typically do make more, because then that gravy that's in the pan, that's going to become a part of my gravy that I use for my dinner. I like to strain it out to make a nice smooth gravy, but if you like your gravy that you're going to pour over your holiday meal to have some texture, you can definitely keep those veggies in, but I drain those out. So yeah, so this is where we are right now, guys, and it is looking pretty good. I'm telling you guys, my mama would be so proud. This just took me back. Oh my God, everybody used to love Paulette's stuffing. Guys, my mom was a great cook, and I know that my passion from cooking definitely comes from her, because I was always in the kitchen with my mom growing up. So here you're gonna see I added, this wasn't, a little less than a half a bag, because I felt like the cubes were starting to get, the stuffing was starting to get a little bit too wet, and that's what I did not want. So I just added maybe about a third of that bag, of the second bag, into that. And so you just want to play around with it, guys. Again, this recipe does not have exact measurements. You want to do this by your taste and the texture of what you and your family like. So, but don't add any salt. FYI, do not add any salt to this recipe, because I'm telling you, if you add too much salt, girl, you're not going to be able to get this down, and your friends and your family will be very, very upset with you. So don't add salt, okay? Alright, so I feel like this is the consistency that I like it. So I'm going to go in for one more final taste, guys. It is totally okay to go in and taste your food. Highly recommend that, with a clean utensil, of course. Alright guys, so this actually tastes great. It tastes just like my mama's stuffing recipe. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to flatten this out so we can get ready to get this in the oven. Guys, I hope that you are enjoying your holiday season. I'm hoping that you're enjoying time with your friends and your family. So yeah, guys, enjoy your family and your friends while you still have them. And I hope that you guys have a blessed holiday season. This is what it looks like after being in the oven at 350 degrees. It was so good. All right, guys, see you next time.